My beloved child. Before your finger moves away from this moment, pause for just a heartbeat. There are messages that arrive because we search for them, and then there are stories that seem to find us when our soul is quietly asking questions our lips have never spoken. This is one of those stories. It is not a prediction, nor a promise of hidden knowledge, but a fictional tale meant to awaken hope, courage, and wonder. If your heart has been carrying unanswered questions about love, let it remain open for a little while longer, because what unfolds next may feel strangely familiar. Have you ever wondered why some people walk through countless seasons, meet countless faces, and yet their heart refuses to call any place home until it encounters one particular soul? It is a mystery that cannot be measured by time, distance, or appearance. It lives somewhere deeper, where words cannot easily reach and where love is recognized before it is explained. Imagine a quiet valley just before sunrise. Mist floats above the grass like silver threads. The world has not yet awakened, yet the first rays of light are already preparing to touch the earth. That is how this story begins, not with noise, but with expectation. Not with certainty, but with a whisper that something extraordinary has been unfolding long before anyone noticed. Somewhere beyond what your eyes can see, the story says that heaven watched countless hearts searching for meaning. Some chased admiration. Others pursued comfort. Many confused attention with devotion. Yet among them stood one soul whose love remained astonishingly pure. Not perfect, because human hearts are never perfect, but sincere enough that even the angels in this fictional tale paused to witness it with amazement. What made that love so different? It was not loud. It was not demanding. It did not seek applause. Instead, it quietly chose faithfulness when no reward seemed visible. Perhaps that is why this story found you today. Because somewhere inside your own heart, you have wondered whether genuine love still exists. You have questioned whether someone could truly value another person's soul more than temporary excitement. Maybe life has shown you disappointments that taught you to lower your expectations. Maybe you learned to smile while hiding disappointments no one else could see. Yet hope has a remarkable way of surviving. Even after long winters. Even after unanswered prayers. Even after silent nights. The story says that heaven noticed this long before anyone on earth did. There came a moment, hidden from every human eye, when the skies in this fictional narrative became unusually still. Not because something frightening was about to happen, but because something beautiful deserved complete attention. Across endless fields of light, conversations slowed. Songs softened. Even the gentle breeze seemed to wait. Why? Because a single act of love was unfolding. Not a grand declaration. Not a dramatic sacrifice. Just one quiet decision. A person chose another's happiness over their own pride. No audience applauded. No crowd celebrated. No reward arrived. Yet according to this story, that invisible choice echoed farther than anyone imagined. The remarkable thing about pure love is that it often grows strongest where nobody is watching. Think about the shepherd David before he ever wore a crown. The world overlooked him, but God saw the heart hidden beneath ordinary days. In much the same way, this fictional story suggests that what appears unnoticed on earth may still carry extraordinary meaning. Perhaps you know something about feeling unseen. Perhaps you have offered kindness that was forgotten. Perhaps you forgave when revenge would have been easier. Perhaps you waited with patience while others hurried ahead. Those moments can make a person wonder if goodness matters anymore. The answer this story offers is gentle. Yes. It matters more than you know. Now imagine another scene. Rain begins to fall across an empty road at dusk. One traveler continues walking alone, carrying nothing except memories and quiet hope. Every drop feels like another reason to give up. Yet instead of turning back, the traveler lifts their eyes toward the horizon. Why? Because deep inside, love is still alive. The traveler cannot explain it. Logic cannot explain it. Time cannot erase it. This is where the story begins to reveal its first hidden mystery. According to the tale, the soulmate was never captivated merely by appearances or convenience. They were drawn toward something far more enduring, a kindness they sensed before they could describe it. They admired courage that appeared in ordinary moments. They treasured compassion that no photograph could capture. That is why, in this fictional narrative, heaven was astonished. Not because love existed. Love has always existed. But because this particular love remained pure despite confusion, distance, unanswered questions, and seasons that could have easily hardened the heart. Most people expect love to become weaker when tested. This story asks a different question. What if genuine love becomes clearer through every challenge? What if every delay removes another layer of illusion until only truth remains? As these questions linger, another image begins to unfold. A quiet garden beneath countless stars. The air is still. Flowers close their petals for the night. A single lantern glows beside a narrow path. Someone waits there. Not impatiently. Not desperately. Simply believing. Believing that timing is sometimes preparing blessings that hurried hands would accidentally destroy. Does that remind you of anything? Maybe there has been something in your own life that arrived much later than expected but carried far greater beauty because of the wait. Many people lose hope moments before the sunrise. They mistake darkness for the end. Yet every dawn begins while the world still believes it is night. That truth echoes through many biblical stories. Abraham waited. Joseph endured forgotten years before restoration. Ruth walked through uncertainty before discovering unexpected joy. Again and again, the greatest chapters began when everything seemed quiet. The story gently invites you to consider another possibility. What if silence has never meant absence? What if waiting has never meant abandonment? What if unseen preparation has been happening all along? These thoughts settle into the heart just as another mystery begins to appear. According to this tale, there was one evening unlike any other. The stars seemed brighter. The wind carried unusual peace. The heavens looked upon the soulmate once more. This time, something unexpected happened. Instead of asking for blessings for themselves, the soulmate whispered a prayer for someone else. Not for recognition. Not for repayment. Simply for that person's healing. Their joy. Their peace. Their future. In the story, that quiet prayer rose like light through the darkness, leaving even the heavenly host in silent wonder. Because pure love does not merely ask, "How can I be loved?" It asks, "How can the one I cherish flourish, even if no one ever knows I cared?" That single prayer became the turning point of everything. But what happened after that prayer was spoken is the part of the story that no one saw coming. The night did not answer that quiet prayer with thunder. It answered with silence. Not the empty silence that leaves a heart abandoned, but the kind that carries unseen movement beneath the surface, like seeds resting beneath winter soil before spring has even imagined its colors. In this fictional story, that silence became the first sign that something extraordinary had already begun. The soulmate walked away believing nothing had changed. Yet beyond their understanding, every selfless word they had whispered seemed to ripple across the heavens like circles spreading across still water. It was not because they had spoken perfectly. It was because they had loved without asking what they would receive in return. And here is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Have you ever noticed how the brightest stars are only visible after darkness settles? Sometimes the clearest answers appear only after every obvious path disappears. This tale suggests that love often follows the same pattern. It grows strongest where certainty cannot. Picture an ancient stone bridge stretching across a quiet river beneath a sky painted with thousands of stars. The soulmate pauses halfway across, unaware that every step is leading them closer to a moment they never expected. The water below reflects the moon so clearly that it almost looks like another world waiting beneath the surface. What they could not see was that every act of patience, every hidden tear, every decision to remain kind instead of bitter had become part of a story far greater than themselves. There is a gentle echo here of the words found in Scripture: love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it keeps no record of wrongs. In this fictional narrative, those qualities are not simply beautiful ideas, they become the very reason this love shines so brightly. Perhaps you have wondered whether quiet goodness is ever noticed. Perhaps you have chosen forgiveness while someone else chose pride. Perhaps you have continued believing when circumstances tempted you to stop. This story whispers that no sincere act of love is ever truly wasted. As dawn approaches, the scene changes again. Golden light begins to spill across distant hills. Birds awaken before the world does. The wind carries the scent of blooming flowers, and everything seems ordinary, until a single beam of sunlight breaks through the clouds and falls exactly where the soulmate is standing. They stop. Not because they understand, but because something inside them feels strangely peaceful. It is as though hope has quietly returned without asking permission. That is often how restoration begins. Not with overwhelming certainty. With one small spark. One unexpected smile. One peaceful breath. One reason to believe again. But hidden beyond that sunrise lies a discovery so surprising that even the soulmate is unprepared for it. They are about to learn that someone has been carrying a truth in complete silence, a truth capable of changing everything they thought they understood about love. Before that hidden truth is revealed, if this fictional journey is encouraging your heart, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Stories like this continue because people who need hope find them through others who choose to share them. Now the path grows even more mysterious. Because the next chapter begins with a message that was never meant to be found, yet somehow, it is about to appear in the most unexpected place. And when that message is finally opened, the soulmate will discover that their greatest act of love was never the prayer they whispered. It was the secret they chose to protect all along. Long before that hidden message was uncovered, another chapter had already begun unfolding beyond anyone's awareness. It started on an ordinary afternoon. The sky was calm. Children laughed somewhere in the distance. Leaves danced gently with the wind, and nothing about the moment suggested that history, at least in this fictional story, was quietly changing. The soulmate stood at a crossroads, carrying questions they had never spoken aloud. What if my love has been invisible all this time? What if everything I have held on to exists only in my imagination? The questions felt heavy. Yet they kept walking. That simple choice became more significant than they could ever imagine. Because every journey toward genuine love eventually reaches a place where feelings alone are no longer enough. Faith, patience, and quiet perseverance begin carrying the heart where emotions cannot. Imagine a mountain trail wrapped in morning mist. Each step reveals only a few feet ahead. The traveler cannot see the summit. They cannot even see the next turn. Still, they continue. Not because they possess certainty, but because hope has become stronger than fear. That is the kind of love this story celebrates. Not the love that disappears when the road becomes difficult. The love that keeps moving forward one faithful step at a time. According to this fictional tale, heaven continued watching, not with surprise anymore, but with quiet admiration. Every time bitterness tried to enter the soulmate's heart, compassion answered first. Every time disappointment whispered, "Give up," kindness gently replied, "Wait a little longer." No one applauded those invisible victories. Yet they became the foundation of everything that was coming. Then something unusual happened. One evening, while the sky glowed with shades of amber and violet, the soulmate found an old journal tucked inside a forgotten wooden box. Its pages were worn. Its corners carried the marks of time. As they slowly turned each page, they realized it wasn't filled with grand dreams or impressive achievements. Instead, it contained simple prayers. Prayers for wisdom. Prayers for healing. Prayers asking that someone else would find joy, even if they themselves remained unnoticed. Every page carried the same quiet theme. May the one I love be protected. No demands. No conditions. Only sincere hope. The moment felt almost sacred. Not because the journal possessed magical power, but because it revealed the true character of a heart that had chosen selflessness again and again. The story reminds us of Ruth, whose loyalty remained steadfast through uncertainty, and of the father in the parable of the prodigal son, whose love continued waiting without resentment. Genuine love often speaks most clearly through faithful actions rather than dramatic words. As twilight settled, another mystery emerged. Far away, someone else unknowingly paused at the very same moment and looked toward the evening sky. Neither knew the other was doing exactly the same thing. Yet the stars above witnessed both silent hearts. Coincidence? Perhaps. Or perhaps, in this fictional narrative, it became a beautiful symbol that hope can connect lives long before conversations ever begin. The wind grew stronger. Clouds drifted across the moon. For a brief moment, everything disappeared into darkness. And then, the clouds moved aside. The moon returned brighter than before. Sometimes clarity arrives exactly like that. Not because darkness wins. Because it eventually passes. The soulmate smiled for the first time in many days. It wasn't a smile born from answers. It came from peace. There is a difference. Answers satisfy the mind. Peace strengthens the heart. Yet while that quiet peace settled in, another event was already unfolding beyond the horizon. Someone unexpectedly came across a letter. Not addressed to them. Not intended for public eyes. Inside were words that had remained hidden for years. Words revealing just how deeply the soulmate had loved, without ever expecting recognition. The person holding that letter stood completely still. With every line they read, their understanding changed. By the final sentence, they whispered only 4 quiet words. I never knew this. Those 4 words would soon begin a chain of events that no one could stop. Because once hidden love becomes visible, every relationship surrounding it begins to change. And the first person who decides what to do with that extraordinary letter is about to make a choice that could transform the rest of this fictional story forever. The person holding the letter did not rush to speak. Instead, they folded it carefully, closed their eyes, and let the silence settle around them. Outside, the evening breeze carried the scent of fresh rain, and the first drops began to tap gently against the window. It felt as though even nature understood that some truths deserve a quiet moment before they are shared. Every line of that letter revealed the same remarkable pattern. There were no words of resentment. No hidden blame. No attempt to make anyone feel guilty. Only gratitude. Gratitude for moments remembered. Gratitude for laughter that had brightened ordinary days. Gratitude for a love that had changed one heart forever, even if life had never unfolded exactly as expected. That unexpected grace became the greatest surprise of all. In this fictional story, the heavens were not moved by dramatic speeches or impossible promises. They were stirred by the simple beauty of a heart that had learned to love without losing its kindness. Perhaps that is why this story has lingered with you. Because somewhere inside, you understand that the strongest hearts are not those that never break, they are the ones that choose compassion after they have been broken. Imagine now a quiet shoreline just before sunrise. The tide slowly washes away old footprints. New waves arrive. The horizon begins glowing with soft gold. Nothing from yesterday can stop the morning from coming. That image becomes a reminder that every ending quietly prepares room for a beginning that could never exist otherwise. The person who discovered the letter finally made a decision. Instead of hiding it away again, they resolved to place it where it could eventually be found by the one who needed it most. Not immediately. At the perfect moment. Timing, after all, changes the meaning of every message. A truth spoken too early can be misunderstood. The same truth spoken at the right time can restore hope. As this fictional journey has unfolded, perhaps you found pieces of your own heart reflected in its pages. If this story has encouraged you or given you a moment of hope, consider subscribing, leaving a comment about the part that spoke to you most, and sharing it with someone who could use an uplifting story today. Your support helps these fictional inspirational stories reach others who may need them. The story, however, is far from over. Days passed. The soulmate continued living ordinary moments, completely unaware that the hidden letter was now moving steadily closer to its destination. They noticed little signs that seemed almost insignificant. A familiar song playing unexpectedly. A bird resting quietly outside the window. A stranger offering an encouraging smile without knowing why. None of these moments proved anything. Yet together they gently reminded them not to abandon hope. Hope often grows through small moments before it reveals something extraordinary. Then came the evening that changed everything. The sky filled with brilliant colors as though sunset itself had become a painting. Clouds reflected crimson, gold, and violet across the horizon. The air was perfectly still. A single envelope rested on a wooden table. No grand announcement. No dramatic entrance. Just an unopened letter waiting patiently. The soulmate reached toward it. Their hands trembled, not from fear, but from the strange feeling that whatever lay inside had traveled a long road before arriving here. They slowly broke the seal. The first sentence made them stop breathing for a moment. It began with words they never imagined anyone had remembered. And before they could reach the second paragraph, someone quietly knocked on the door. The identity of the visitor would reveal a connection that had remained hidden since the very beginning of this fictional story, and nothing would ever look the same again. The knock came softly. Not hurried. Not demanding. Just 3 gentle taps that somehow carried the weight of years. The soulmate looked from the half-opened letter to the quiet door, their heart caught between curiosity and uncertainty. Outside, the last light of evening faded into a sky scattered with countless stars. The world seemed to hold its breath, as though even time wished to witness what would happen next. For a long moment, no one moved. The letter remained open on the table. The visitor remained outside. Between them rested a silence filled with possibilities. Finally, the soulmate stepped forward and opened the door. Standing there was someone they never expected to see. Not an angel. Not a mysterious stranger. But an elderly traveler whose eyes carried both kindness and the wisdom of many seasons. His smile was gentle, almost familiar, though they could not remember ever meeting him before. Without saying much, he held out a small wooden box. "I believe," he said quietly, "this has always belonged to your story." Before another question could be asked, he placed the box into the soulmate's hands and slowly walked away beneath the moonlit sky. No explanation. No request. Only peace. The soulmate closed the door and looked down at the weathered box. Time had softened its edges, and a tiny carved olive branch decorated the lid, a symbol of peace that reminded them of Noah's story, when hope returned after the flood. Inside rested 3 simple objects. A faded photograph. A pressed white flower. And a folded piece of paper. The photograph showed an ordinary day. Nothing remarkable at first glance. Yet when the soulmate looked closer, they realized something astonishing. In the background, almost unnoticed, stood the very person they had loved so deeply. Neither of them had known the other was there. Their lives had crossed long before either heart understood what those moments would one day mean. The pressed flower carried no note. Yet somehow it had survived the passing years without losing its delicate shape. Love can be like that. It may pass through difficult seasons. It may be hidden. It may even seem forgotten. But genuine love often preserves its beauty in ways that cannot easily be explained. Only one item remained. The folded paper. Their hands trembled slightly as they opened it. It wasn't another letter. It was a list. Simple. Handwritten. At the top appeared one sentence. "The reasons I chose hope." Below it were dozens of small observations. They smiled at someone who felt invisible. They showed kindness without expecting thanks. They remained honest when no one was watching. They encouraged others while carrying silent burdens. They never knew I noticed. With every line, tears quietly filled the soulmate's eyes. The greatest surprise wasn't discovering how deeply they loved. It was discovering how deeply they had been seen. Every unnoticed act. Every hidden sacrifice. Every quiet moment of compassion. Someone had witnessed them all. In this fictional story, it became clear that pure love had never been built upon grand gestures. It had been built upon thousands of ordinary moments that revealed extraordinary character. Perhaps that speaks to your own journey. Sometimes we believe only the biggest achievements matter. Yet the smallest kindness offered on an ordinary Tuesday may leave the deepest mark on another person's heart. The evening grew still again. The wind gently turned one final page lying beneath the list. There, written almost as an afterthought, were words that changed everything. If this reaches you, it means the time has finally come for the truth to be known. The soulmate's heartbeat quickened. What truth? Who had written those words? Before another answer could appear, a familiar voice unexpectedly called their name from outside once again. This time, it wasn't the elderly traveler. It was the one person they had spent years believing would never return. And the very first words spoken at that doorway would uncover the final secret that heaven had been quietly protecting from the beginning of this fictional journey.